Come on, the after parties are even more fun.
When Hazel begged me to go with her, I couldn't say no. It's college, after all. The seniors poured shots like water. Some cute boys even flirted with me. The after party continued till 2 a.m. in the morning. Hazel wanted me to stay back, but I slept better in my own bed. Also, my dorm was just 2 blocks away. The weather was a little cold, and a thin layer of fog covered the streets in fragments. I was stumbling a little for obvious reasons, but not totally out. I knew I'd have to walk back, so I didn't go overboard with the booze. A big owl hooted from a nearby tree, letting me know that I'm not the only one in these empty streets. I told myself the night wasn't creepy, just quiet. That was until I rounded the block. Under the yellow glow of a flickering streetlight, I saw a woman. She was crouched low to the ground, her hands pressed on the concrete like she was mimicking a dog. At first glance, I thought she was just some homeless person scavenging for scraps, but her sudden, jerky movements felt like a calm before the storm. As I got closer, I slowed down. Something was off. A reeking odor was floating in the air. I rubbed my eyes to see it more clearly, and I did. A mangled lump of fur and flesh was lying in front of her, which seemed like roadkill. Probably a raccoon or a cat. Hard to tell, really. She wasn't picking up trash. She was eating it. Tearing chunks of meat with her bony fingers and then shoving them into her mouth like she hadn't eaten for days. The wet slurping sounds hit me before the sight fully registered. Strings of meat hung from her lips as she chewed, lips glistening with blood. Her fingers dug into the carcass like claws. She was so busy with her feast that she didn't even see me. Now, I wasn't drunk anymore. All my blurry vision, stumbling body movement disappeared in a second. The best thing I can do right now is change sides and quietly walk as far as possible from this woman. So, I slowly cross the road, my eyes fixed on her. In case she sees me and chases me, I'll start running. But luckily, she didn't. I took off my heels so I could walk as silently as possible. My eyes are still on her, my heart hammered in my chest. I'd never felt so scared before. It was like straight out of a horror movie. I was praying to God that she wouldn't notice me, but suddenly, an owl flew over my head from a nearby tree and I ended up screaming in shock. Ah! My blood froze, realizing what a grave mistake I just made. I slowly looked at the streetlight where I saw her, and now she was looking at me, a chunk of flesh still hanging from her mouth as she shot her death stare. I started backing away without turning my eyes from her. She watched for a few seconds that felt like eternity, then slowly stood up. Her claw-like hands were dripping with blood. Her stringy hair made her appear even more scary. She tilted her head to her left and then screamed. She screamed just like me, as if it were a taunt. I started running after that. My breathing got heavier, and the booze in my stomach was trying hard to stay in. I was panting and gasping for air, but I knew I couldn't stop. Not now. Not until I reached my dorm. I looked back and saw the woman had crossed the road already and was now sprinting at me. She was cackling like a coyote with her hands stretched at me. I didn't know why she was running like that, but I felt she wanted to eat my flesh as well. I ran and ran until I couldn't anymore. I fell on the ground, but again got up. I have never felt fear up so close. My body was on the verge of collapsing. I stumbled one last time on the ground and immediately turned back to see her inches away from me. I stopped and screamed.
What do you want?
She stopped as well. She looked me up and down, then laughed. Her laughter was darker than the darkest night. Using her sharp nails, she picked something from her stained, bloody teeth and flicked it at me. I collapsed on the sidewalk. She clapped at me like my misery was amusing to her. She then turned back and, hopping like a 9-year-old girl, disappeared into the night. I woke up with a high fever in my dorm. The memories of picking myself up from that sidewalk and walking back to my dorm will always be a blur to me. I'm just happy that I'm alive. I don't go out alone after dark till today. If I go to a party, I stay back if it gets too late. I would never want to meet that woman, ever again. The worst she can do is say no, right? These were my exact thoughts when I decided to ask Betty out again. We had a nasty breakup. Well, it was worse for her than me. For days, she kept texting and calling me, screaming and crying. It was hard for her to digest that we were no longer together. I went to New York for a work project and eventually forgot about her. But a few months back, we crossed paths again. I was standing outside a coffee shop when I heard a familiar voice, and she was standing on the sidewalk, talking on her phone. She looked different, a little too happy maybe. Seeing her smile like that, I realized I could have ended it better. So one Friday night, I mustered up the courage and asked Betty out. She agreed right away, and we met for our first post-breakup date at a nightclub. The bar was swinging with men and women. We drank and laughed and danced. It all felt nice. As I sat down beside her, I couldn't help but apologize again. Listen, Bet, I'm sorry about our breakup. I should have treated you right. She flipped her hair to her back and said,
Yeah, you should have. But it's all right. I hold no grudge.
I leaned in to kiss her, but she stopped me.
How about we take this forward at my place? Kind of our private after party.
I was a little drunk and I wanted to get some, so I agreed, quite immediately. Betty took me to her luxurious 4 BHK apartment. Whoa, this place is fire. You stay alone here?
Mostly. Sometimes I bring my dates here.
She poured me a glass of champagne, and once I finished it, pointed at her bedroom, saying,
Let's not keep you waiting for long.
I followed her like a puppy, but as soon as I stepped in the bedroom, she pushed me in and locked the door from the outside. I balanced myself, avoiding a fall. I turned back to the door and knocked on it, laughing. Come on, Bet, still punishing me for last time? I said I'm sorry. My, what a sweet candy you are. Suddenly, my stomach dropped. A man's voice forced me to turn around and take a quick look at the room. There was indeed a man. He was wearing gym shorts. The way he sat on the bed felt like he was waiting for me. Brushing his long, bony fingers on his hairy chest, he spoke again. It's time for a raise, Betty. You're the handsomest one she's brought in. What? Who are you? I'm SJ. Betty works for me, officially as well as unofficially. He laughed, then headed for the cupboard. I started punching on the door. Betty, open the door! Let me out!
Sorry, I only listen to my boss, not you.
Her amused voice rang from the other side of the door. Tears rolled down my cheek. Anger, hatred, and fear all rushed through my veins at once. Did she lure me into a trap? The man has gotten up from the bed now. Suddenly, my head started to spin. My entire body went numb, and I couldn't keep standing anymore. What's happening? I remember the glass of champagne Betty gave me right after entering her apartment. I tried my best to speak, but even my voice gave up on me. And then I passed out. I woke up to the smell of rotten mush and sticky ground. My head was heavy like a rock. When my blurry vision stabilized, I found myself lying in a heap of garbage in a very shady alley. Flies were sitting on my skin. My clothes were ruined. There was a big stain on my pants that seemed like blood and something more. I wanted to cry, but my tears were dried up. Shame, guilt, and pain all dawned on me. I can't recollect how I reached home. I took many showers to wash off the filth and the memories, but I still feel the reeking smell from the garbage pit circling me. I haven't told anyone anything about that awful night. I haven't gotten any text or call from Betty since. I wish I had the courage to go to the cops, but speaking about that night spirals my trauma even more. Maybe someday I can finally speak up and get justice for myself. Sometimes I laugh at myself looking at the mirror. What a naive guy I was, that I thought the worst she could do was say no. Looking back, I shouldn't have said yes to that after party. It was just another Friday night, many people crammed into Jamie's garage with loud music, cheap booze, and dumb games. We were riding that post-high school senior year feeling where every night felt legendary. Then, somewhere between bad beer and worse choices, Jamie said, "Dude, let's keep this going. Your parents are gone, right?" And before I knew it, my house was officially After Party 2.0. It wasn't a big deal. My parents were out for the weekend, and the only other person in the house was my baby sister, Ruthie. She was 7. I figured she was asleep by now. Everyone promised they'd stay in the basement and lie low. What could go wrong? By 11, half of the senior class was in my basement. Music was down low, drinks were flowing, and some sounded like they were even laughing. Somewhere in there was Fred. Now, Fred wasn't what you would call a regular at parties. He was kind of a loner, always a little quiet and always straggling along the edge of conversations like he was just grateful to be invited. I didn't even remember inviting him, but there he was. Pale, greasy-haired Fred, clenching a solo cup like it was saving his life. No one cared when he suddenly said, "I gotta go. Something came up." No one thought much of it, but once he left, Jamie asked, "Who invited Fred?" Everyone exchanged looks. "That guy's such a creep," Mark added, shivering dramatically. "He probably just followed the crowd here." We laughed it off. The music got turned back on, and in no time, Fred was a distant memory. At least, that's what I thought. About half an hour later, I headed up the stairs to get some more beers from the kitchen when I saw Ruthie standing on the stairs, her little fists white-knuckled on the railing, and her eyes were big with fear. "Ruth, why are you up? It's late."
"There's a monster in my closet,"
she whispered. I chuckled. "A monster, huh? You know those aren't real, right?" But she didn't laugh. She looked like she was going to cry. Okay, I sighed. "Let's go check it out. Brave Knight Kenneth is going to slay the closet monster." She held my hand all the way back to her room. The hallway felt weirdly cold. Must have been my imagination. When we got to her door, she froze.
"In there,"
she said, pointing to the closet. I rolled my eyes, attempting to keep things light. "All right, here we go. No such..." I opened the closet door. Ruthie screamed, and my blood turned to ice. Crouched amidst Ruthie's stuffed animals, clutching an underwear in his sweaty fist, Fred was sitting there. His eyes were wide, feral, like a cornered rat. "What the hell, Fred?" Footsteps hammered up the stairs. My friends poured down the hallway, breathless. Then they saw him. Jamie's face turned to disgust. Mark looked like he was about to puke. Fred didn't move. We pulled him out of the closet with Ruthie crying behind me. My hands were trembling with rage. I wanted to punch him. I wanted to take his face and put it in the mud until I took his sick little smirk away. But I didn't. We called the cops. I think Fred never even left the party. He just snuck upstairs to Ruthie's room. God knows what would have happened if she hadn't woken up. The cops cuffed him in my living room. They gave me the whole speech about being good for calling us, but I wasn't listening to them. I couldn't stop looking at Ruthie, holding Mom's old teddy bear, her eyes swollen from crying. Later on, one of the officers pulled me aside and told me that I was lucky to let anybody into our house. I called Mom and Dad and told them all about it. It didn't matter what they said to me because internally I was screaming at myself for not catching this sooner, for not getting Fred kicked out earlier, for even allowing that to happen to my little sister Ruthie. I should have hit him. I should have done something. That night changed everything. Ruthie did not sleep in her bedroom for weeks. But the worst part? Sometimes, even now, I can see Ruthie staring at her closet before bed, as if she's still waiting for the monster to come back. I've never thrown another house party again since that night, and if some creepy loner ever tries to invite himself again, he won't even make it to my front door.